everyone. My name is Ingrid Paris-Hicklin. I'm the producer and host of Ingrid's World. On this show, meet Steve Eatmon, the author of the book, A Touchstone of Impact, The Life of Linda Eatmon-Jones, a memoir to honor the impactful life of his late mother. Steve Eatmon has served in the pastoral ministry for over 10 years and currently is the associate pastor at the Chinese Bible Church of Maryland. He is married and has 2 children. Well, welcome to the show, Stephen. I'm so glad that you decided to be on the show, and congratulations, first of all, on publishing your new book.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Ingrid, for having me on the show today. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your education and your career.
Yeah, so I grew up in this area. I was born in Fairfax Hospital and grew up in Fairfax County, moved around, went to Chantilly High School, and then I went far away for college. So I went to Florida State University, had to get out, experience some warm weather. And then I graduated from there, and I felt called into ministry to being a pastor. So I went to seminary in Kentucky. And I went there for 3 years, and I came back. I went into the business world for a little while, trying to figure out myself and what I really wanted to do. And I really felt that ministry was what I was called to do. So after about 5-6 years, I went into pastoral ministry, where I've been ever since, and which has been in this area. So I'm currently at Chinese Bible Churches in Rockville, Maryland.
Rockville, Maryland. Congratulations. What a wonderful journey. My goodness.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, tell us about your book. The Touchstone of Impact, the story of your mother. We're showing on the cover of this wonderful book that I had the opportunity to read. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a book that came from my mother's unfortunate, untimely passing. So she had been dealing with cancer for about the past 7 years of her life. But then she took a very sharp downward turn around February of 2020, and it resulted in her death in April of 2020. And it rocked a lot of us. A lot of us weren't really aware of how serious it was. But the way she lived her life, there was a lot to reflect on and a lot to think about in that time. And I really felt that it would honor her to write this book and to have other people be able to collect their thoughts and reflect on ways in which she has impacted them. And so this is a chance for me to honor her, but also a chance for everyone else who wrote a submission to be able to honor her as well.
It was fascinating. When I was reading it, it's almost like a spirit was, these people were telling these stories and these little stories about their encounters with Linda. And I was very honored to have her as a guest on the show, where she had talked about one of her, 2 of her books actually, and it was amazing. So you were inspired. So you were inspired to write the book, but how are the chapters written in the book?
Yeah, there's chapters that highlight each of the aspects of her life, because I really wanted to collect essays from people who were in different parts of her life. And one of the things I noticed is that the themes are pretty much the same throughout the course of her life. So it starts talking about just the early part of her life, how she grew up. She grew up in rural North Carolina, in eastern North Carolina, and then she moved to this area when she was an adult. And then I highlighted different aspects of her life, such as family, friends, church, and work, and also the next generation. So these are people whom she would mentor and take under her wing and help them grow, because that was a big part of who she was not just accomplishing and doing well, but also taking what she's learned and investing into other people, of which I am one of those people. And the last chapter is the impact that she has on me.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
So, as I say, life, I like to have the story that good people run in the same circle. And you had something in the book that was written by Helen Ladden, had contributed, and actually I know her, and I couldn't. I was like stunned.
Yeah, small world, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm like, what? But it was impactful reading it. And it was the lessons, the 12 lessons that you shared. And those were some powerful lessons. And they are lessons that Linda shared with us. So tell us about, first of all, the overview of these lessons, because they were amazing.
Yeah, well, a lot of those lessons are things that I highlight in the last chapter, which is the impact on me, such as giving generously. Mom gave to everybody. And she wasn't just someone who gave because it was convenient or because it made her look good. She gave even when it was uncomfortable. And that's, I think, a lesson that we all should learn in how generously that we should be showing love. It was one of the ones that Helen mentioned. She didn't show any partiality. That we should treat everybody the same. Whether they're a CEO of a corporation, whether they're someone who has a working class job, she loved and respected everyone the same. And that was something that I tried to emulate in myself.
Wow. And very well, and very well. And I love what you're saying. You should give generously, even when it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
Now that's a key word.
Yeah, defintely.
Yeah, I can give as long as it doesn't hurt me.
Yeah, and she would give, and there is this the rule I got from my mom is when company comes over, this is just small things. She would prepare everything. A lot of times people when they come over, they'll bring like a dessert or they'll bring a drink or something like that. And whenever people would ask my mom, she would say, "Bring yourself." Because that's the kind of person that she was. If you're going to be a host and have someone come into your house, you take care of them. Like you don't go cheap, you go all out. And that was just someone who she was. And so she went to great lengths to make people feel comfortable around her, to make people feel at ease. And that's something that I've tried to emulate. And also for my, to give you a story that's in the last part of the chapter. When I was in college, I was in a Bible study during the summer when I came back in between semesters. And in this Bible study, there was a gentleman there who was college age, same age as I was. And he had a very difficult living situation. So in the time where we were taking prayer requests, he would talk about this situation and how difficult it was because this man was a very unfortunate person to be around, to live with. And I went on a whim to ask my mom. I said, "Mom, can he stay with us? Because we have space, we have bedrooms. Is it okay that he can stay with us?" And this is a stranger. This is someone she's never met before. And she said, "Sure, take him in." And he said to this day, but we've been groomsmen at each other's weddings. He got married, I think about 2 or 3 years after that. And he said, "My mom saved her,"
Oh my goodness.
He saved him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's him. Wow. And she just stepped out in faith and it brought in a total stranger to her home. What a generous lady.
Yeah. I mean, she trusted to know that I wasn't going to break some.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. I also love one of the lessons that I looked at and it said, "Show love." And when I read that, I was like, oh my goodness. And it sounds like, those examples that you're talking about are the ways that she showed love to you. Were there any other lessons that, that kind of like stands out in your mind that you carry in your heart?
Oh, yeah. One, there's so many. I mean, just a few. One was hard work. She was incredibly hardworking, incredibly thorough in what she did. And I remember one time we were out in the yard. I was about 10 years old at the time. And we were doing Christmas decorations because she was big into Christmas. Anyone who knows her would tell you that she's big into decorating the house for Christmas. And when we were decorating the house, it was 35 degrees. It was cold, and we were out there a long time. And she's trying to get everything perfect because it has to be thorough. And I'm getting uncomfortable and cold. And I said, "Can I go inside now?" And she says, "There's just a little bit more to be done." She says, in life, there's work and there's play. And you're going to do a lot more of the former than the latter. Because if you want to play, you have to make sure that the work is done. And right now, the work is not done. When the work gets done, you can go play. But right now, we have a little bit more we have to do. And I took that with me. That you have to work all the way through and finish something, because mom was big on finishing. Not just saying you're going to do something, not just starting it, but following all the way through. And that thoroughness is how she was able to accomplish so much, and be able to change careers and do so many different things. So that was a huge lesson that I got from her, was that one. Another one was being an expert. She was big into becoming an expert of whatever it is, whatever it was. And I remember one time my wife and I, we moved back in right before our first son was born. And when we were living with her, we renovated a part of the basement so that we could have a bedroom to stay in. And when the contractors were coming over, she would walk through all the tools that needed to be done. And I said to Mom, we have a contractor. Why do I need to know all this? She says, you need to know because they could be taking advantage of you. You need to be aware of what they're doing so that they don't ruin your living space. So you need to be up to speed. Not that you need to know every single thing that they're doing. You don't need to know every single thing there is to know about contracting, but make sure that you are enough of an expert so that you do not get taken advantage of by these people.
Wow.
And she wanted me to really understand that when you embark on doing something, you know as much as you can about it. And when she got cancer, she became an expert on cancer. I mean, there's doctors, there's radiologists that know all these things, but for her, this is my body. And I want to know that I'm being treated the right way. So for my mother, she spent a lot of time learning about how cancer works, about the different things it does to the body, the different types of treatment options you can have. And she was able to fight that battle for 7 years because she knew so much about how to fight the battle.
Remarkable woman. Remarkable. There's a slide that you say, and it just really you read different things. I read a lot. Mm-hmm. And this book really just was quite impactful for me. Yeah. And it said, pay it forward. What does that mean?
Yeah, Mom did a lot of stuff for me and didn't expect things in return. She didn't expect me to pay her back. So she would pay for this or she would give me this. But the expectation is not that I pay her back. The expectation is that I do the same exact thing for my kids. So that's where it comes from, because Mom was big into invest into the next generation. You don't need to pay me back. Make sure that you invest into your children and other people, other young people, the way that she has invested into me. And she invested in not just to me, but also to a lot of other people. I remember when I was in high school, she took under her wing. There was some with the program. There were some girls that were they were in downtown DC, and one of them had a very hard upbringing with drugs and the foster system and things like that. And she would bring her over to the house, and as a way to communicate to me, like, this is how you invest in people. You need to take people under your wing, invest in them, and you invest in the future. So she was big into investing into the next generation, investing into the future. And that inspired me to want to go out and invest in the next generation as well, because I'm a youth pastor now. So I spend a lot of time, investing in young people and investing in the next generation and helping them, to grow up and be, upstanding people. So that pay it forward principle really has stuck with me.
Wow, it really has, because and that's really what it's all about. So do you have a favorite part of the book that you really enjoy in terms of writing?
That's a tough question. There's so much of the book that I like. It's hard. I mean, the part where I write, just being able to write about the impact that you had on me, I think that chapter, reading a lot of them trying to pick which essay was the best was hard, because they all were very thorough, thoughtful, and they reflected very well on my mother. Just reading all of them, I was very touched by all of them. I mean, I personally just being able to write about how my mother has impacted me, because it took me back to all of the lessons that I learned. I had a chance to really think about all those lessons I've learned throughout the years and reflect on them. And being able to put them into writing was really something that was special and powerful for me.
Wow. So you have a statement in the book that says, I believe that to have a life of impact, you must focus your energy. When everything is of the utmost importance, nothing is.
Yes.
Speak on that.
So true, because you can't scatter yourself. You have to focus on a few things, and you have to decide, what do I really want to focus on? Because those who make the maximum impact are those who focus on just a few things. And my mom was really good at that. Now, she was versatile, and she would, change and because she changed careers, but her focus was singular, and it was in her endeavors in life were built on the idea that she was going to make an impact on other people's life. So everything was built with that in mind. I mean, for me, it's about glorifying God. That's for me. That's my singular focus. And everybody has their own focus, but it has to be singular to have that maximum impact. Because when you try to make everything your thing, you're not going to have a life that affects people. You have to think, what is it that's most important? And I'm going to focus on that, the 2 or 3 things that are most important for whatever it is. If you want to have a happy life, you want to be able to make impact on people's lives, you want to affect other people or affect the world or change the world in some shape or form. The people who do those things are always focused on only a few things, and they're able to block out everything else. And that's the key to having an impactful life. And that's something that my mom did very well.
A lesson learned, particularly when I read that, and I will tell you that I have a tendency of multitasking.
Yeah.
And I read that, and I am preparing for, usually we have a family Zoom get together every Sunday. And I remember the statement that your mother made. I'm like, wait a minute. I can't prepare for all these shows I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And then so I said, okay, let me just get laser focused. And so I contacted everyone. I told them, I said, I would love for us to get together, but we'll get together next Sunday. Right now, what's important is to deliver a good show.
Yes.
And everyone supported it. And I said, you know what? It's something that you can really start thinking about. What do you want to do?
Yes.
Is it a life of being charitable? For me, it's a life of not only charity but also my family. My family is like really up there.
Yeah. Same thing with me.
Same thing with you. You
Yeah.
know. Yeah, and I think that when you have things like that, it just helps makes an easier life, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah, there's a lot of things that I want to do. I love to be able to play certain sports or play video games a certain way, like my son can, do things like that. But I know that I call it, sometimes when I'm in church and I'm talking to people, I call it a stink factor. Like, you have to be able to stink at something, because if you try to be good at everything, it won't work. You have to focus your energy. Like, what am I gifted to do? What am I really good at? Where can I have the most impact on people, the most influence? And focus your energies there rather than trying to just do everything.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So based on your book and your last chapter, what lessons have been most helpful to you in your life?
Work ethic, follow through, and risk taking. Those are the big 3 things. So I mentioned the work ethic before. My mom took risks, but they weren't dumb risks. They were calculated risks, because for her, you can't live life safe. If you want to be able to go far in life, you have to take risks, and you have to do things that are sometimes against the grain, that are not what everyone else would do, but she did them anyway, and the risks paid off. For example, changing her career twice. She was in software and she wanted to go into the business side, and she left her job, went to Harvard in Massachusetts and got an MBA in the middle of her career. And after that, she left her job at Fannie Mae, and then she went into organizational development and then went into the nonprofit sector. So career changes, and these are career changes relatively later in life, because she went to Harvard when she was in her late 30s. And she went to George Mason to get the organizational development degree when she was in her 50s. So for people that are like, I'm too old, I can't do this yet, my time has passed, my mom did that, and she had success. I mean, she was the director of business development at Fannie Mae, and people who worked with her there, noted how well she handled the Y2K crisis. Remember the Y2K crisis?
Yes.
Yeah, she worked for 48 straight hours, the last hours of 1999, to help Fannie Mae overcome a lot of the obstacles of that. And when she went back to organizational development to get her degree in that, she went to run a number of nonprofits. So you can change and shift if you're willing to do the work and discover your passion, discover what it is that you makes you excited, and the way in which you can most impact the world. She was able to make those switches late in life because that's just who she was. She was willing to take risks. And for me, that's what I want to do. That inspires me to not just play in the safe zone, to just think, oh, if I just stay here and I don't ruffle any feathers, then that's not the way people make impact. They don't do that by just playing safe. They have to take calculated risks that look like it may not be the most popular thing to do at the time, but later on you find out it pays off. So that's a big one. And also just a follow through, and combining those two. We have relatives that live in France. So we go see them, when I haven't seen them since the pandemic started, but we see them relatively often. And I was inspired because I'm going to see this more often. I'm going to try to learn French. I had studies it in high school, but I'm really going to try to learn the language. I'm going to try to learn it so that I can just speak to anybody about anything. And in the beginning, it was hard. I'm watching TV shows and listening to things in the car, and I get maybe a sentence in, and I'm just lost, man. But I just kept persevering through it. And then now 4 years into it, we have these Zoom, we had the family Zoom calls, like you mentioned your family Zoom call, and earlier in the year, I messaged my family. I'm like, you know what? Let's have these calls, and we're only going to speak in French,
Wow.
And if I get lost, I get lost, right? And every week, for about an hour and a half, I'm talking to them in French, something I never thought I would do like 10 years ago, so but it's follow through, right? It took about, I know language classes aside, it took about 5 years to get to that point. So it doesn't come easy, but that's my mom speaking in me. You have to follow through. Like, if you want to do something, there are a lot of people that say they want to do stuff, but very few people have the follow through to make it there. And that was something that inspired me, is to do that. So those are big lessons that I've learned, that if you want to make an impact, is having that follow through, not just saying, oh yeah, because all kinds of people say they want to do stuff, but only a certain kind of people have the ability to follow it through.
Wow. Wow. That's impactful. It really is. It really is. And the way you were explaining it, you need to do a TED Talk.
Thanks.
You do, Stephen. Because I was going to ask you what's next, and I already see what's next. Well, I just tell you, thank you, Stephen Eatmon, for being on Ingrid's World and discussing your book, A Touchstone of Impact, The Life of Linda Eatmon-Jones.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me on the show. This has been wonderful.
This has been fun, too. I have 2 inspirational quotes from Rosa Parks. Each person must live their life as a model for others, and memories of our lives, of our works, of our deeds will continue in others. Thank you for watching Ingrid's World, and I'm totally grateful for the support that everyone out there is giving to this show. Connect with me on Facebook at Ingrid's World, or follow the show at Ingrid's World VA in Twitter and in Instagram. And if you missed an episode, you can watch the show on Ingrid's World LLC on the YouTube channel, and also ingridsworld.org. Thanks for watching. So glad you were here.